services. We have federal contractors that are doing environmental remediation and cleanup. We have federal contractors that are participating on building projects, public works projects. We have federal contractors that are supplying goods and services to bases and all around the world, especially the bases, of course. Ours are usually working with the bases and the military installations that are in the Bay Area or in Northern California. The federal government has an incredibly wide and diverse range of services and products that it needs to run its operation. Really everything from simple things like pens and pencils to very sophisticated things like components that go on the space program and everything in between. So one of the things that is, I think, a big advantage of federal contracting is that the federal government is a good customer. There's a lot of opportunity to sell to the federal government. The federal government always pays. You don't have to worry about not getting paid. And it's an opportunity to get into a business line where the contracts are going to be maybe a little bit bigger and a little bit more steady than what you would get in the private sector. So it can help your company grow. But the one thing that you have to be ready for is federal contracting can be somewhat bureaucratic. You're going to have to bid on contracts, and you're going to have to negotiate with the federal agencies. So there's quite a bit of process that's there, and I think not all the businesses are really ready for that. And what we try to do is teach them about how that works so that they can do it. They can learn how to bid on federal contracts, the ins and outs and the secrets of success for bidding. They can learn where to find the contracts. They can learn about, once they bid the contract, how to negotiate the contract once they win the award, because there's usually a negotiation phase. And that's very important because with almost any kind of negotiation, and especially federal contracting negotiation, that's where you can make or break the opportunity for the business. And you have to really do that properly. And then you have to be able to comply with the federal costing regulations so that you're doing that correctly and all the documentation that goes with that. So it's a good opportunity, but one that businesses have to be well prepared for. And in fact, I think with our Minority 8A program, that's what we're really trying to do, is work with the businesses, one, to give them access to the contracting so they can get into it, and two, to make sure that they're well prepared for it so that they're successful at it.
I see. And you have that classes?
Yes,
here.
yeah, we do. And we work with some key partners, in particular the Federal Technology Center, who is a specialist in training businesses on federal contracting.
So let's say the federal government has a $1 million project, estimated $1 million. Obviously, there's going to be quite a few bidders on that. How would the 8A contractor can take an opportunity in that bidding?
Yeah, well, the way that would happen is that if the federal agency desires to, and many of them will do this, they can first of all take that contracting opportunity, and they have the potential to set it aside for the 8A companies. So that's the first thing you want to look for, is to see if there's a set aside. Because if it's set aside, then, as I said before, only 8A companies can compete on it. But if it's not set aside, the 8A companies still have an advantage when competing on it. They will indicate that they're 8A, and then when the contract is reviewed, then that comes into consideration that they're 8A, and that gives them an added boost when the contracting is being looked at.
I see. Okay. Now, going back to the qualification of 8A, the company need to have an experience in that particular field for how long?
Well, we're looking for businesses, the 8A, to be in business for 2 years.
2 years, okay.
Yeah, but we also are going to look at the business plan, so they have to submit a business plan, and our specialists are going to evaluate to make sure that they meet the eligibility criteria. So we want to be absolutely sure that they're who they say they are, that they're a minority small business, and that they meet the eligibility criteria for the program. And then we're also going to look at them to make sure that they're that they have the capacity to do federal contracts. So that's sort of that one is hard to sort of describe because it's a case-by-case basis, and but our experts can look at these businesses and then they can make that determination. The big issue really, though, is the 2 years in business and economic and social disadvantagement. They have to really show that.
How about the right now we are facing the world of globalization.
Yes.
How does the SBA facilitate that in assistance?
Well, one of the things we do is that the loan, just to say this up front about the loan programs, we don't have any kinds of criteria about the loans in terms of where the supplies come from. So we expect that when people get an SBA loan, if they're borrowing money for inventory, the inventory can come from wherever it needs to come from. And some of the other government agencies, they have limitations on the loans, that it has to be U.S. made or some kind of, minimum domestic content. We don't have those kinds of rules. We also have a loan program that is specially set up to help finance exporters, and we work closely with the Import-Export Bank on that, the Export-Import Bank, to do loans with them to businesses that are actually exporting their products overseas. And that is actually a revolving line of credit. Typically, exporters' biggest problem is they get these large orders from their overseas customers, and then they need working capital to help them fill those orders. But their working capital needs are usually short-term, because once they get the working capital, they complete the order, they ship it to their customer. Typically, there's a letter of credit in place that pays. So, and that